There is one story this week that has not got the mainstream media attention I think it deserves. And there are fears that the government is not taking this issue seriously enough either. That's foot and mouth disease and what it could do to our agriculture industry. A serious outbreak here, the experts say, could cost our nation 80 billion with a B dollars in a single year, and it could leave us dependent on imports to get our meat. I spoke to David Littleproud earlier today, and I asked him just how serious this potential crisis is.
Oh, look, this will cost the Australian taxpayer just as much as JobKeeper, $80 billion, and that's before you have to pay the extra bit at the checkout because we don't have a source of protein. You could see our whole national herd decimated, have to be wiped out, a hole dug, and we burn them. This is a frightening prospect and one in which the government needs to act decisively with urgency in understanding the extent and scale of the issue that they're facing.
So you're saying we could go at a time when the world is facing food pressures from being a net meat exporter to having to import pretty much all the animal protein we consume?
Well, look, the only solution to this in the past and in the future will be to dig a hole and to terminate the life of those livestock infected. And if we don't have traceability, which we don't have full traceability across this country, you could see a great big dirty hole dug and livestock terminated and put in that hole. And that leaves farmers starting from scratch. They have to start from the very beginnings, and that takes time to rebuild the herd. So we will have to import meat into this country. And that's why we're saying this government has dithered for the last 2 weeks when there are simple measures that can be put right here at this airport to protect our meat industry. They could do it, they could have done it, and yet they have failed to put in place those processes and procedures.
So what I'm hearing you say is that the government is not taking this seriously enough. Why do you think that they are not putting into place the common sense measures that should be taken?
Well, look, while we welcome the fact that they've reached out to Indonesia, they should have done that with a phone call a week and a half ago to build on the measures that we put in place with Indonesia about 10 days ago with respect to FMD and also lumpy skin. They also needed to make sure that they brought in protocols around footwear. They've increased the number of dogs at airports, but unfortunately dogs don't detect foot and mouth disease, and particularly if it's on the bottom of someone's shoe. So the only way to mitigate that risk is to bring in foot baths or mats whereby people walk through to disinfect those shoes to give us that comfort. This isn't the silver bullet. It is simply a 1 or 2 percenter. Because all this will mean is there are thousands of people pouring through these airports, even today. 16 flights out of Indonesia today, thousands of people coming through here. It only takes one person to have something on the bottom of their boot, and Australian agriculture is cooked. So what we're saying is this is a simple measure, one in which I've actually had a briefing from the department on, but it seems as though it's more of an inconvenience for them to enact rather than actually put in place that's cost effective, that's pretty cheap, but would neutralise and mitigate that actual risk.
Should people coming in also have the shoes that might be in their bag? Because obviously I think people probably travel with more than one pair of shoes. Should those shoes all be screened? Should every bag be screened for footwear?
Yeah, and look, we go through biosecurity with the respect of intelligence of profiling people and where they're from. So biosecurity officers will know if someone's from a regional area and will actually give them more attention. And that's a good thing. But there is technology that our government was putting in place that was 3D X-ray technology that we've implemented in Australia Post, where our parcels go through 3D X-ray technology with artificial intelligence. We are going to roll those out in airports. This has been budgeted for. We don't need to wait for the October budget. This government could expedite the expenditure on those 3D X-ray scanning machines here at airports to make sure that we can actually put our baggage through that so we have a clear understanding. We're trying to do a pilot with New Zealand so that you could also share that information with a plane coming out of New Zealand into Australia, so we knew what was in someone's bag before we got here. But we could do this and implement this now. This is a real wake-up call to expedite a lot of the spending that we've got there in place to make sure that we get on with the job, the traceability, but also the deterrence in saying to people who falsely declare, we will send you home. Proudly, I was able to send home 14 people who falsely declared and told them they weren't welcome back in this country for 3 years because they flaunted our biosecurity laws. So this has to be targeted. It has to be targeted in the sense of using what tools are available. And unfortunately, The minister who said it was all crap last week around using foot baths is now saying, yeah, well, he might want to use this. Well, the time's ticking, and he needs to get on with the job now because it only takes one person.
Sounds pretty sensible to me, David Littleproud. Just one final question for you real quickly. What should Australians who are in Indonesia right now, in Bali right now, or are going to be travelling to Indonesia or Bali in the near future know about this? Should they be taking precautions with their footwear, knowing that they'll have to declare things when they come back? What advice would you give to Australians?
Yeah, firstly, they need to declare on the way back. They have to be honest, but they should clean all their footwear and their clothing as best they can before they get home, and also make sure that when they do get back, is that all their clothing is washed again when they get back, because it's not just on boots, this will come on clothing as well, and they just steer it clear of as many animals as they possibly can while overseas, and stay away from our farming sector for over a week when you get back. It's as simple as that, but declare is the first and foremost thing that you should do.